Hi, let's start chapter 15. Okay, in this chapter, we'll talk about managing global system. During this chapter, where we're going to learn, we will know what major factors are driving the internationalization of business. What are the alternative strategies for developing a global business? How can information systems support different global business strategies? And we will know what are the challenges posed by a global information system and management solution for these challenges, and what are the issues and the technical alternatives to be considered when you developing an internet information system, the national information system. Excuse me. The growth of international information system, the global economics system, and a global world order driven by advanced network and information system. We learned from the earlier chapters that this is what drive the global economic system. Is one of the factors is the advanced network and the information system. The growth of international trade has radically altered the domestic economics around the globe. And for example, a production mm, of many high-end electronics products parceled out to multiple countries. As example, we look at the Apple. The issues with the Apple is Apple designed the iPhone in USA and relies on the suppliers in the United States, Germany, Italy, France, and South Korea for other parts, and finally assemble occurs in China and sold around the world. So the major dimension for developing an international information system architecture or the global environment, the business drives and challenges. The second part of it from this, we will have to face to look at the global, corporate global strategy. And then we see at the organizational structures and then the management and business process accordingly. And we look at the technology platform. So the major dimension for developing an international information system architect are the global environment, the corporate global strategies, the structure of the organization, the management and the business process, and the technology platforms. So when we're building an international system, we need to understand the global environment. Business that drivers pushing your industry toward a global competition and inhibitors creating management challenges. So these are two things that we need to understand. And then we develop a corporate strategy for competition. How firms should respond to the global competition, then develop an organizational structure and the division of labors where will production, marketing, sales, and they could be located. A good example, how does the OG money do its business globally? When building in the international system, also we need to consider management issues, design of business procedures, re-engineering and managing change. And also we need to consider the technology platform. So there is a general factor, general cultural factors, and there is a specific business factors. The general cultural factors is like the global communication and transportations, technologies, the development of a global culture, the emergence of a global social norms, the political stabilities, and the global knowledge base. The specific business factor is the global market, global production and operation, whether there is a global coordination, do we have a global workforce, and definitely the global economies of scales. In the challenges and obstacle to the global business system, if we look at the global level, we look at, for example, cultural particularisms, regionalisms, nationalisms, language differences. We also look at the social expectation, like the brand name expectation, work hours. We're also looking at the political laws, like the transporter data and privacy laws, commercial regulation. On the specific part of it, uh, what's the standard of ADI, the different electronic data interchange, like emails, telecommunication standards, the reliabilities, like the phone network, not uniform, reliable, and the speed, different data transfer speed, many slower than in the United States, for example, and Canada. And there is a personnel which is shortage of skilled consultants. Most companies have inherited a batch work international system using 1960s era's batch oriented reporting. It's a manual entries of data from one legacy system to another and little online control and communication. There's no centralized data entries, for example, or upgrade. So when we are looking at a global strategy and business organization, there is a four main global strategies, whether the company is a domestic exporter, whether it's a multinational, whether it's working as a franchisor or transitional, which is a commercial transaction taking a place between entities in a different countries, like what's happening with the Ford and GMs between Canada and USA. The three main kind of organizational structure, what we have, the centralized structure, we have the decentralized to a local foreign unit, and the coordinated all units participate as equal. Here, there's a three kind what we have in the organizational structures. But as a business wise, there is a four main global strategy, how you do business and how you structure it. As an example of telling you details, if you are, how its business function is operating. Let's say in the field of production, if you are a domestic exporter, your process, your business functions in the production is centralized. If it's a multinational, is disparate. If it's a franchise, is coordinated, and transitional is coordinated. If we look at the human resources in the domestic exporters, is centralized. In the multinational, also centralized. In the franchise, coordinated, and the national, coordinated. So each business function, it depends on the business strategy, and the global business strategy will define how you best practice to operate. So global systems to fit the strategy is configurations, management, and the development of system tend to follow the global strategy chosen. So if you have a centralized or multinational, it's your system should follow that. The four main types of system configuration, you have what you call the centralized, which is the system development and operation occur totally at the domestic home base, like a CRM of BMW. You got then you have the duplicated, which is the development occur at the home base, but operation or handover to autonomous units in foreign location. We see that in franchise like McDonald's. Then we have the decentralized, which is each foreigner unit design own solution and system, as we see in the CRM of Ford and GM. And then when you have the network, which is the development and operation occurs in the coordination fashion across all the units. That's probably typically we see it in Honda and Toyota, the Japanese car manufacturing. Now, the reorganizing the business, how we do it is we organize the business based on value adding activities along the lines of comparative advantage. Value adding activities, we look at the all activities and the workflow, and any activity that is not part of a value added, it can will be withdrawn. Then we develop and operate system unit at each level of corporate activities, regional, national, and the international, where we sit and try to develop and operate system unit at each level. Then we establish at the world headquarters the idea of single office responsible for development of international systems, which is then you see somebody called a global CIO position, which is Chief Information Officer. The challenges is basically comes in on agreeing on a common user requirements. We try to introduce changes in the businesses processes. These are challenges. Coordinating application developments, different applications. Coordinating software release, when we can release these softwares and when do we need to release it. Encouraging local users to support the global system. So a typical scenario, this organization on a global scale is a global system strategy. Define the core business process. So first we look at the core business process. What's its core business? Identify the core system to coordinate it centrally. So we want to first define what's our core business and then coordinate it centrally. Then choose an approach, whether we want to do incremental, grand design, or evolutionaries. Preferably incremental can help so much and make the benefit clear for the end users and other companies, sub-companies, and result of capital budgeting analysis, feasible study. So basically, you divide the things into a three divisions, and each division you divide it. The global core business processes comes in with the global core system, and then you have the regional business processes with the regional coordinated system built in. And the last part of it is the local option systems, which is added a local business processes, like the Middle East extension and the IBM HR Access. Now, in the global system strategy, you share only the core systems. The core systems support functional critical to the firm, the core functions. Partially coordinated systems that share some key element, and they do not have to be totally common across national boundaries, local variation desirable. And then you have the preferable systems, which is need to suit local requirement only. So there is a three levels. One is the core, and then is belong to the regional, or and then you might have the local or the preferable system. In the global strategy system, first we need to define the core business processes, identify the core system to coordinate centrally, choose an approach like whether we're going to do a piecemeal or a grand design approach, which is tend to fail. So we need kind of a step-by-step, which is evolve a transactional application incremental from existing application. And also, we want to make sure they know about make the benefit clear. It gives a global flexibility, gain in efficiencies, and make a global market a larger customer base, unleash a new economies of scales at the production facilities, and also will help to optimizing the corporate fund over much larger capital base. The management solution, how we do the implementation for it. First of all, we do the process of agreeing on a common user requirement, as we spoke about it in the first few chapters. Um, Consent, creating consent between the members, introducing change in the processes, business processes, coordinating these application development, coordinating software release, and encouraging local users to support the global system. When we talk about the technology and issues and opportunities, in a field we spoke about for the global value chains. We spoke about the value. You do a studies, anything that does not add a value, you drop it and you do the rest. In the technology challenges of a global system, computing the platform and the system integrations, how you do the platform, how you compute it, how do you do the integration between different systems, see whether there is a connectivities and what kind of a software you can utilize. And the other thing is you do the managing a global software development. Now, the problem of international network, things like the quality of the service, maybe the security, the costs and tariffs, you might face a poor quality of international services or even the network capacity that you will be facing. Also, there is what you call the percentage of total population using the internet. You notice here, for example, Angola is the lowest of percentage using the internet, and Canada and USA kind of after Sweden of using the internet. So that's another challenge, the percentage of users of internet, which is the other country is catching up very fast. So is also the percentage of the total population using the internet in developing country is much smaller than in Canada and Europe, but it's growing rapidly. So that's the end of the chapter 15. Thank you.